It's 5 o'clock somewhere. I am glad the Houston Texans coach DeMeco Ryans set the record straight.
Hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, work. There you go. Hard work, work. Everybody doing it right. Hard work, work, work. That's what I say. Hard work, work, work. Earn my pay. Hard work, work, work. Do it every day. Hard work, work. Get up out of 2:45. Hard work, work. Let me go and earn my pay. Hard work, work. Boots on.
Y'all like my shirt? Hold on. Let's see. You see my shirt say, how do I block you in real life? Hey, what's going on, y'all? You tuned to the Sports Talk with Big Sarge show. I'm your host, Big Sarge. This is the Texans Happy Hour edition. Make sure you subscribe to the Sports Talk with Big Sarge. Make sure you subscribe to the Sports Talk with Big Sarge show on YouTube at Big Sarge Media. Make sure you follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Big Sarge Sports with the Z at the end. Follow me on the Tick and the Talk at Big Sarge Media. Follow me at Instagram at Big Sarge Sports with the Z at the end. Because you know we do everything for the gram. And make sure you are subscribed to the Locked On Texans podcast and subscribe to the Locked On Texans YouTube page. Hey, Vega, you know what? I'm going to just real quickly before we even start. So if you've been listening to the Locked On Texans podcast and you've been listening to the Texans Happy Hour, that's what I've been advocating for a long time. Every time John and I would talk about who the Texans need to draft, what position that they need to draft, I say, hey, go wide receiver first. Then after that, let the chips fall where they may. Hey, just mean if you don't get the right offensive lineman, CJ just got to get the ball out of his hands faster. Maybe that's what's going to happen with Nick Caley. Who knows? What's going on, y'all? It's been a minute. Just popped in here to say hello. Now, listen, I know that this is the Texans Happy Hour, and normally I have my purple cup, but today I just got water. I just got my water because I have to head over to the it's Dyken Park now, right? That's what they call it. Dyken Park. It used to be Minute Maid, but now it's called Dyken Park. So I have to head over to Dyken Park as the Houston Astros would take on the San Francisco Giants in the second game of that series. And so I have to be at the park tonight covering the Astros. So sorry, y'all. All I got is water. The best water, though. This is the best water. Mm-hmm. Vega says we need a wide receiver too. We're going to compete for a Super Bowl. Yes, I agree. Hold on, before I even jump into what because this is the happy hour. So I mean, we got something that we're gonna talk about, but I just want to throw this in there. We need a wide receiver too. Yes, and because the one thing that I've been saying for a very long time is the way that the Texan season ended the last 2 years in the divisional round against Baltimore Ravens 2 years ago and against the Kansas City Chiefs last season. The one overall theme that was always there was what? They did not have another wide receiver opposite of Nico Collins. I feel like if they would have had because this is one of the things that gets lost, right? One of the things that gets lost especially against the Baltimore Ravens. The Texans were tied with Baltimore 10-10 at the half. And that was the number one team in the AFC. Now, the war of attrition kicked in, and on the next time around, they weren't able. In the second half, they just weren't able to keep up with Baltimore. Baltimore imposed their will on them. But what they did was they just rolled the coverage over to Nico because there was no second wide receiver. Tank Dell had got hurt during that time against Baltimore, and then against Kansas City. We know no Stephon Diggs, no Tank Dell, and what did they do? Kansas City just rolled the coverage over to Nico. And I think that if they would have had another wide receiver, if they just would have had another number 2 wide receiver, they may have been able to pull that out. Because in week 16, when the Texans lost to the Kansas City Chiefs, when Tank caught that touchdown pass, the score was 17-16 with waiting on Kaimi Fairbairn to come in and see if he could tie the game with the extra point. So yes, Vega, I believe in you. I believe it as well. I've been saying the exact same thing, as well. Hold on. Peanut underwater on deck. Real quick, hey Steven. So I think somebody else asked me this question today, and this is by far one of the hardest games that the Houston Cougars probably had to play in their last 3 years. Because when you look at their Duke men's basketball team, of course they have a superstar, Cooper Flagg, who's probably going to be the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft for sure, without a shadow of a doubt. He's one and done. But they also have really good role players, and they also have a big man on the inside that is not as effective scoring, but he does crash the boards. Now, on the flip side of that, the Cougars got the best defense in basketball. In college basketball, they have the best defense. They have a scorer in LJ Cryer who can shoot. I can't, is it Uzan? Uzan, I think if I'm not mistaken, their point guard that transferred in. I like the way that he plays, and I like the way that Sharp is able to hit open shots. Plus, you get Juwan Robinson, you got JoJo Tugler. And so this is going to be a good game. I feel like whoever gets on the board, whoever wins the rebounding matchup, is going to win the game. Because I feel like with the defense that's going to be played, and sometimes the Cougars go through these scoring droughts, and so they just have to be able to sustain during those scoring droughts that they go through, and not let Duke go on a run. I watched a couple of games of Duke because I wanted to see, what Cooper Flagg was going to look like. Because in a crazy world, with the way that things may play out, like, it's crazy that the Rockets may be in line for a lottery pick, and that lottery pick may be somewhere up in that area. I think it's because of whatever happens to the Phoenix Suns, who has 11 games left, but they're going to lose Kevin Durant for at least 7 of those, I think. And so it's going to be interesting to watch Cooper Flagg go up against that U of H defense. That U of H defense is something else, man. So I think that it's going to be one of the hardest games played. Maybe on Thursday's edition of the Texans Happy Hour, we can talk about that. No, you're not late. Let me see. I wonder if we're going to get a lot of primetime games this year, since we stunk it up last year. Primetime against the Ravens and the Chiefs. I think that the Houston Texans will get the same amount of primetime games, if not more. I think that if you're making the schedule, and if you're looking at if you're one of the schedule makers, and now since Amazon is more involved, and because Netflix is more involved, and you're looking at these streaming services or getting themselves involved into the NFL, you also have to take into account that CJ's still a big draw. Will Anderson Jr. is still a big draw. And I think that when you look at the amount of games, like, they lost that Christmas Day game, what was it, 31-2 to the Baltimore Ravens, what they call the Beyonce Bowl. And I'm looking at that game and I'm like, yo, they just flat out got beat. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking anything away from Derrick Henry. I'm not taking anything away from Lamar Jackson. The Texans did not look good. But another thing was the Texans were also in the midst of that 3 games in 11 days schedule or something like that. And I get it. All 4 of those teams were in that same realm. So that's not really an excuse, but by the same token, man, that's a lot of football to be playing. And I'm not giving them a pass because of the way that they play. I mean, Kamari Lassiter is the only one that scored, and he's on the defensive side of the ball. I just feel like now that they won't have those games packed together like that, because, even with the draft coming up, the Houston Texans still have, on paper, by far the best team in the AFC South. And they still, CJ Stroud is still a storyline to see who, what he's going to do in his third year. We've seen what he was able to do in his rookie year. Now what he's able, what he did in his second year. Now coming into this third season, you get another season with CJ, you get another season with Joe Mixon. You're curious to see if Nico can repeat the success that he had his Pro Bowl season, his 1,000-yard season that he had last season, even missing 5 games. And so I think that they're still going to get some primetime game. What's going on, Marcus? Hold on, I still say sure. Draft a trade could be. Tay, what's going on, man? What's good? See ya, Bobley. What's going on? Let's see. I still think Tennessee would be good and be good. They're getting a rookie quarterback. Yeah, they are getting a rookie quarterback. I just don't know if they have everything else in the other pieces around him, which is really weird because didn't they just draft a quarterback like 2 years ago? I remember that. I remember one person was really advocating for what's mayonnaise coffee guy name? Will Levis. I remember somebody was really wanting him to come here. Are we leaning towards offensive line or wide receiver or best player available? J Mac, can we table that? Because I thought I had a clear view of a clear. I thought I had a clear and concise answer for you on this, and then I started talking to somebody, and they told me, "Hey, man, I like the way that you're thinking. I like the way that you're thinking. I like the way that you're going, but, just be careful because things can change. This is the NFL. Things change on a daily basis. Things change constantly." And I said, "Well, I get that part, but I know the two needs that they need. I mean, best player available could be a defensive tackle, but they need an offensive lineman. They need a wide receiver. So how come they just can't stick with that plan? It can't change that much, can it?" And he's like, "Well, were you not surprised when they traded Larry Tunsil? Did you see that coming? Or did things just happen? Did trading Larry Tunsil, was trading Larry Tunsil on your radar? It was not. So I had to concede and take a step back and say, yeah, I got you. Still mad CJ didn't take that Pro Bowl offer. He could have been a 2-time Pro Bowl. I think that him wanting to heal, I think that him wanting to heal and him wanting to get better was one of the reasons why he didn't take it. Because you remember, CJ got hurt. CJ played through injury last year. And I can tell you exactly when he got hurt. I've said this before. I said this before on the Sports Talk with Big Sarge show. And I've said this on, I think I may have said it on Locked On Texans, but I definitely said this on. CJ got hurt October 31st against the Jets. And that game he got hurt against the Jets. After that, he didn't want anybody to really see that he was laboring in pain, but he was hurt. Now, that doesn't take away, because my whole thing is, hey, are you injured or are you hurt? Because if you're injured, you need to be off the field. If you're hurt and you can play through it, then you have to take whatever comes with that, good or bad. You have to take whatever comes to it. And shout out to Sideline Sarah, because she was one of the first ones who picked up on that. And so, yeah, I'm glad that he got a chance to heal. What's up, Tony? Love the name of this show. Where did you get? I just started saying it, man. I haven't, I didn't see anybody else saying or going live any other time with Texans Happy Hour. So I've never seen it before. And if there's somebody out there who had it before me, Joshua, please let me know and I'll change the name. Listen, I'm very creative. So I can come up with my own stuff. Like I can come up with my own stuff. Hold on, let me say that again. because people got out here accusing me of stealing content. Content? Me stealing content. Me, Sarge. I'm by far one of the best content creators most of y'all know. I can end this show, come back with another show with a whole nother name, and it'd be different. Now, Joshua, I'm not shooting at you. I'm just saying, because this has been an overall theme today based off of a seventh round offensive lineman who got drafted and was hurt the entire year. And that's no shot at the offensive lineman, but evidently you can't mention his name or you're stealing content or you're doing those type of things. I will address that before I get ready to leave, because I can't be on here too long because I got to get over there. Based on seeing what Miller said, I see him being at 25. If he don't study no film, he ain't gonna be there. What's going on? Mayo Levis. I meant trade Schultz to Tennessee since they have a rookie quarter. Okay, I can see that. What are you getting in return? What's going on, HD? For sure. I'm just reading these comments now before I get into what I'm gonna get into. If we can get a line to block, wide receiver won't make much of an issue for CJ if CJ has the time. I think that CJ, yes, hey, Mellow Mike, yes, I agree with that. But I also believe that you get CJ in the right type of offense where you're constantly moving, and I think that you'll see that he doesn't have to have the greatest protection. He don't need, the protection he got when he was in college, or he didn't need the protection that he got when he was when he was in college, or like if he played for Alabama or something like that. Hell, or even Michigan. They put out offensive linemen. Oh, my bad. I can't talk about Michigan offensive linemen either, because then again, I'm stealing content. Got it. All right. Let me see. I'll play it safe if I'm the Texans. Use some of them picks they got from the Tulsa trade and get a wide receiver 2 in the trade. Go get a Olave or a Gary Wilson. We've talked about that on the Locked On Texans podcast. What is this now, Sarge? I need my credit. I called out a lot of things with the team that happened. For sure. Let me see. Wait a minute, Tay. Give me a broken hot water heater and a bag of chips for Schultz, and it'll be fair based off his production last year. Hold on, Tay. Tay, what you sipping on? Tay, I just got water. I just got water. Damn, Tay. Damn. That's crazy. Damn, you want the man gone for a broken hot water heater and a bag of chips. What kind of chips? Because I ain't gonna even lie. Like, Funyuns is probably my favorite chips. I really like Funyuns. I used to really like Doritos, but then I was like, nah, Funyuns and cheese puffs, the Cheeto cheese puffs. But you got to put, so side note, hold on one second, because you did this, Tay. This the Texas. Hey, look, for those of y'all just tuning in, welcome to the Texas Happy Hour. I'm your host, Big Sarge. Tay, you did this. Now you got me thinking about chips. Hey, man, you know what? When Cheetos came out with these hot chips, right? When they came out with these hot chips, I said to myself, God dang it. Got to be more careful. So I was like, that was not only my invention, but that was mine and a lot of my friends. Like, do you know how long we have been putting hot sauce on Cheetos? Like, we have been putting hot sauce on Cheetos for a very, very, very long time. Just like I'm old enough to remember when Stop and Goes was around. Some of y'all are too young to remember that. But I'm old enough to remember when Stop and Goes was around. And we used to go and get a bag of Doritos and we'd cut the top and then we'll take the nacho cheese and put the nacho cheese in there and make it like little nachos or whatever the case may be. Well, yeah, man, dang. I hated that. When them hot Cheetos came out, I said, good Lord, I've been doing this forever. And now look, I lost out on my millions of dollars that I could have pitched to them that they would have stolen. They would have took down the thousands, but I'd have took that too. All right, let me see. Wow. Tay, hey man, tip my hat to you. Big Sarge salute. Wow, okay. Been sober since 2019. Hey man, hey, no, that deserves a salute because for some people that's a battle. That's a battle that they go through. It's a battle that they have to deal with. I'm not a big drinker myself. I'm a social drinker. So I don't consume alcohol like that myself. My wife and I, we were just talking about, hey, when's the last time we really had like a drink together? As me and my wife, before we got married, when we were dating, we used to drink every Friday night. That would be our thing. We get together and we just whatever we watch a movie or we sit on. I call it the stoop because my mom used to call it that. God rest her soul. But this is when I was standing in the townhouse. We get to the top of the stairs, get a drink, and just sit on the top of the stairs and just talk like we was back in the day. I trade TQ for an old pair of duct tape Jordans, them air wax. Wait a minute, what? Those hot bags, barbecue ruffles. Onions and a ruby is underrated. Yeah, you'll be burping all day. Marcus said cheese puffs for sure. I'm so mad we didn't go after Evan Ingram. I know CJ played with him in the Pro Bowl rookie. Yep. Hey, salute to you, Tay. Salute to you, brother. Salute, Tay. He used to drink a bottle of the Jameson or Texas whiskey a night, and that's got expensive and has. Hey man, I'm just glad you was able to get away from that poison. I'm glad you was able to get away from that. All right, let me go ahead and talk about some things that DeMeco Ryans talked about. Hold on for a second. Okay, cool. So at the owners meeting that's going on right now, DeMeco Ryans spoke with the media on today is Tuesday, so he spoke with the media on Monday, and some of the things. Listen, of course, you've already seen a lot of these things out there, and shout out to to Jonathan Alexander, shout out to DJ BNMA, shout out to Aaron Wilson, and shout out to Cody Stutes. Those are the four that I know for sure was there representing the Houston Texans beat. Those guys were there for sure. Those were the guys that I know without a shadow of a doubt was there. I don't know if somebody else was there. I apologize, but I know that those guys was there for sure. And so they got a chance to speak with DeMeco Ryans on Monday. And like I said, there's a lot of content that has been put out there that you all have already seen or have heard or have talked about. And so we're just going to rehash some of those things. And I just want to get, your opinion and hear what you have to say about these things as well. All right. So when he started talking about the Laramie Tunsil trade, he said it was really tough. And that trade was beneficial to both parties. I agree with that. And I can see where I can see what he means by that being tough, because when you have one of the best pass blockers in the league, arguably one of the best, if I would have to say that it's hard to give up someone who has protected CJ like that and someone who's good, but it's also, and like Laramie has been saying throughout all the press conferences that he's done that it was a business decision, which is one of the things that I had been saying for a very long time. It was a business decision. Laramie said the exact same thing. Hey, look, I understand it's the business. And so, DeMeco said the exact same thing. He said it was really tough to get rid of Laramie. And but it was beneficial for both parties because they traded with a team that has an upward trajectory. Now, they didn't trade with a team that's in the same division as them. They traded him to the Washington Commanders, but they traded him to a very good situation. And if you watch the Washington Commanders on last year, they were, a really, really good team and they surprised a lot of people. They surprised a lot of people by making the playoff run that they did. And so now he gets to go and also play with another up and coming quarterback who should be, in that round when you get to start talking about the next generation of quarterbacks. Because pretty soon, we're going to have to start talking about these next generation of quarterbacks after, Patrick Mahomes fades out. And, I don't see that happening anytime soon. But once he starts to fade out, and then you'll get the Joe Burrows and you'll get the Lamar Jacksons and you'll get the Josh Allens. And then you have that next tier of quarterbacks who is CJ and Jaden Daniels and players like that. Laramie is going from protecting one very good young quarterback to going to protecting another very good young quarterback. And so I seen him. I seen DeMeco and what he said, and you could tell that it wasn't personal, because if it was personal, he probably would have kept Laramie. Laramie was one of the guys that DeMeco liked, but like I said, he definitely understood what it was, and like he said, it was beneficial to both parties. He said that he added veteran O-line help, and we've talked about this ad nauseum by adding Ingram, Tomlinson, Brown, Robinson, by adding some of those guys to the offensive line room. He added those guys because they have been playing around. They have been playing in the league for a very long time, of course, on different teams, and now bringing them here and putting having some competition, during OTAs and during training camp and during the preseason. Want to bring those guys in, veteran guys who could also be a good help to some of those younger guys, to some of those younger guys like a Blake Fisher or a Juice Scruggs or a Jared Patterson and whoever else that they're going to draft. The Texans may draft, at least two offensive linemen in this upcoming draft this month. And so those guys, when you look at it, and if you put everything to the side, right? I don't want to evaluate the talent of who they got in the free agency. I don't want to evaluate the talent of those guys. But Cam Robinson has been in the league a long time. Laken Tomlinson has been in the league a long time. Ingram has not been in for a very long time. Him and Kenyon Green has been in around the same amount of time, but he's played with some very good offensive linemen in Minnesota. And then Trent Brown, of course, we know Trent Brown's history and where he's been. And so some of those guys will be able to come in. And like I said, and this is what I said on the Locked On Texas podcast. Because at first I didn't see it. And then I seen it. And John and I talked about this, and I said, you're bringing these guys in, and you're bringing them in for competition. I don't think that those guys that you're bringing in is any better than Blake Fisher or Titus Howard. But you're bringing in these guys for competition, and you never know what's going to happen when you get a bunch of guys together with one common goal. And you would think that one common goal would be to protect CJ Stroud. Okay, you may think that one common goal may be for the Houston Texans to win a Super Bowl. Okay, all that's fine and dandy. Yeah, those are goals that you want to have. But all these guys are playing for a bag. All of them are playing for a bag. Blake Fisher is playing for another future contract. Scruggs, Patterson, Howard, Brown, Tomlinson, Robinson, Ingram, all those guys in that room are playing for a bag. And so when you get that type of competition out there now, because now, hey, every snap, whether it's OTAs, training camp, preseason, regular season, every snap means something because every snap is on film. And if they're going to look at that film, you want to put the best that you have on that film because you're playing for another contract. You're playing for the bag. And so if you put all of that together, that's where I see the competition aspect of it. The competition aspect of it is they're playing for a bag, not the competition aspect of talent level. because I don't believe that those guys are that they've brought in is more talented than Titus Howard or Blake Fisher. But when you playing for something, when you playing for when you playing for a job, because all these guys are nothing but independent contractors. And so when you're playing for your next check, and what I mean by your next check, not your next check during the season, I'm talking about where the check's going to come from in 2026, where the check's going to come from in 2027. I need to secure that. I got a family that I need to take care of. This is my job. And at the end of the day, I'm trying to get paid, because what do they say that old acronym is for the NFL? Not for long. So I can see that. And I can see the culture. When we talk about that word culture, I can see the culture of what DeMeco and Nick are trying to do. Because now you put these, hey, listen, I put it like this. You putting a bunch of wolves, you've putting a bunch of wolves on one side of the gate, and then there's stakes on the other side of the gate. So if you got 7 wolves on this side, but you only got 3 stakes on the other side, what that mean? When that other gate open, everybody going, all of them are going for the stake. It's only 3 of them. But it's 7. It's only 3 stakes, but it's 7 of them going after that stake. So now everybody, you gotta. It's a dog eat dog world. So I get it. So he talked about that, right? He talked about the adding veteran offensive line will create competition, and then sticking along those same lines with the offensive line. He talked about Titus Howard, and he says he's open to playing him at tackle or guard because he's flexible. I've said this until I was blue in the face, and y'all see how dark I am. Y'all see how dark I am. I've said this till I was blue in the face. Titus Howard is by far one of your of the most important pieces on this Houston Texans offensive line, because he can play 4 positions. And it's crazy because I honestly and truly believe that he could play center. It may take him a little time to get acclimated to playing center, but he's played center before. We talked about this. We've talked about the amount of offensive and defensive positions that Titus Howard has played. Like, listen, you want to do some homework? You want to do some research? Give me a second. You want to do some homework? Do some research? Hey, go to Titus Howard's last high school game and see how many yards he threw for, how many yards he ran for, how many touchdowns he had. Oh, wait, hold on. Maybe I need to say that again to the people for the people in the back. Go to Titus Howard's last high school game and watch how many yards he threw for. And watch how many, and look at how many yards he threw for, and look at how many yards he ran for, how many touchdowns, and he did that all playing against his brother. That's a funny story. When Titus told me that story, I said, "You've got to be kidding me." But you remember when he went to Alabama? He went to Alabama A&M. No, Alabama State. When he went to Alabama State, he was going there as a tight end, and then Titus was so skinny at one point. Like, his mom talked about it in the introductory press conference of how skinny he was, and then all of a sudden he just started gaining weight. But Titus has played every position. I think I've said this before. Jared Patterson talks about when Titus Howard was at left guard, how much he helped him out, because Titus knew the position of playing the center, but he also knew what the quarterback was looking for. And so he helped him out a lot. But I like what DeMeco said about the flexibility of Titus Howard and him being able to move him around. And that's where you may see new offensive coordinator Nick Caley and offensive line coach Cole Popovich. That's where you may be able to see them do the mixing, do the mixing and the matching of the offensive line until they can find that right combination. And what makes all of that happen is Titus Howard, because he can play right tackle, left tackle, right guard, left guard. And so that's what DeMeco, is looking at as well. And like I said, he didn't just, volunteer that information. He was asked the question. Like, all of these things that I'm talking about are that DeMeco answered the question. Okay, and then the toxic offensive line room, right? Hold on before I get to the toxic offensive line room, because I don't want to get too far away from this. Y'all know over here we we do comments over here. Uh I think Pierce looks good this year. Still think we could trade a fourth for Michael Mayer. That way we can focus on lineman and receiver. Hey, make sure you listen to the Wednesday edition of the Locked On Texans podcast, as we're going to talk about Damian Pierce. And I'm going to tell you where Damian Pierce will be. How can I put this? I could tell you how, in one area, in one aspect, that Damian Pierce is going to be so important to the Houston Texans, especially with these rules being changed. So, hey, stay tuned. I don't believe it was tough for DeMeco Ryans to trade Laramie, especially since he doesn't make the easy decisions like not starting Kenny Green or keeping Petrie off the slot receivers. Not too complicated. We'll talk about that. Let's table this until tomorrow. Make sure you keep this comment because I would like to revisit it. I definitely would like to revisit it. Honestly, feel like they either need to trade Pierce or give him some decent playing time. Feel like DP might actually get a good look in this new system. And you know what, Tay? Here's the crazy part about it, right? Here's the crazy part about it. And I get what you're saying. And I get what you're saying. But on the flip side of that, do you know what's so crazy? What's so crazy is when he was drafted, we talked about that offensive system. And then when Slowick came, he's like, well, maybe DP can change. I mean, maybe DP will be better in this offensive system and also playing behind Joe Mixon. And now we're talking about Damian Pierce going into a third offensive system. He's only been in the league, what, 4 years? That's a lot. Nico Collins going into what, his third offensive system? Sheesh. How many offensive systems has Titus Howard been in? Good Lord. There's some players that were here. That's what I used to say about Kenyon Green. Of course, take away, the way that he played, and we all know how he played. That's been well documented. I've talked about it. You all have talked about it. But he's about to go into his third. He was about to go into his third offensive system too. That's a lot, Tay. That is a lot. Can't I don't think we can't say Hot Wheels in Texas, can we? I don't think Hot Wheels is allowed to be said. I thought that was one of the words that they got rid of when they got rid of DEI. Mm. Commanders requested that false start penalties be revised on have 1 yard penalty. Not sure why. Oh man. I think the offensive line strategy is to draft young offensive line talent to build around CJ and use these vets to establish culture and competition. Hey, Senior Boble, I believe that as well because CJ still a very, very, very young quarterback in the NFL, and the way that he's moving himself up. You get a group with him, you get an offensive line group with him, and let them grow together and give them a good 5, 6, 7 years together and just see where you go from there. I mean, you look at the Philadelphia Eagles model, and once they started to really build around Jalen Hurts, you seen what they were able to do. So I definitely agree with this comment. Uh Hold on. Titus needs to be a guard if he's not going to be a tackle solely due to his versatilities. Yeah, Tight his house from quarterback to offense. Sound like a lazy individual. It's not hard to just eat and gain weight. Honestly, that's why he isn't a nasty lineman. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. That's not what happened at all. He didn't eat his way into that. He's already. We'll talk about that later. Um, let me see. Uh, what's good, AD? Let's see. Yeah, they have. They have. I ain't politically correct, Sarge. Hot Wheels, Hot Wheels, Hot Wheels. All right, Texas have. Yeah. All right, so with that being said, right? He also talked about the report that came out talking about a toxic offensive line room. And if you get an opportunity and a chance, please go listen to the please go and listen to the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Texans podcast, because John and I addressed that. John and I addressed what he said about the toxic, about the report being wrong about the toxic offensive line room, about the toxic offensive line room and how that was incorrect. And so, when you look at what DeMeco said, and what he said was, I don't understand where this report came from because I wouldn't have allowed it. And then he said, these guys were these guys were good with each other. And the one thing that I said on the show, one thing that I said on the Locked On Texans podcast was, you ever been in a situation, you ever been in a toxic relationship, but you're not the toxic one? Or you ever been in a toxic environment with your family and you're not the one that's toxic, but you're still in a family environment, in a family setting? I said this on more than one occasion when people started throwing this around, and when the report came out, and John and I broke this thing down, and I want to make sure that I say it the right way. The room was toxic. The room as a whole, because when you speak of offensive line room, you're talking about the offensive line coach all the way down, to whoever else is in there, but the other assistants that are in there as well. And so when you look at it, the players were not toxic, but the room was toxic. You understand what I'm saying? Let me say that one more time. You ever been in a toxic relationship, right? You've been in a toxic relationship, but you're not the toxic one. But you know that it's toxic, but you're still in the relationship, right? Because you don't want to leave because you love her or you love him, or y'all got kids together, y'all got property together, or both of y'all love your animals, or whatever the case may be, right? There's one person that's toxic and the other person that's not, but you're still in a relationship. And so just like I reported on, the room was toxic as a whole. The players weren't toxic. The toxicity came from Chris Strausser. And when I say the toxicity came from Chris Strausser, I'm telling you that you have one coach who controls your playing time, one coach who controls you being on the field and not being on the field, telling you one thing in Chris Strausser. And then you have Cole Popovich, who's telling you how to beat the line stunts, the delayed blitzes and the line stunts. And so now the players are like, well, I want to listen to Cole because this is what's going to get us better, but that has to be done scheme-wise. That has to be injected into the scheme. We can't inject that into the scheme. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, because a lot of people like to take my words and misconstrue them. It's misconstrued, not screwed, misconstrued. A lot of people like to take my words and misconstrue them. I'm not saying that Chris Strausser is the reason why the Houston Texans offensive line looked like that completely. No, you still had the players on the field. You still had the players who had to go out there and compete. But some of the things that Cole Popovich was telling Chris Strausser could be used, and Chris Strausser is old school, and he's like, no, we're just going to do it this way. We're going to blase this and blase that. And so that's where now the disconnect comes from. Well, he said we got to do it this way. He's saying that. And that didn't happen all the time, but it happened. I'm telling you something that I know. I'm telling you something that I know. And so you look at that, and then you go back to the talent that's on the field. Kenyon Green didn't have his best time when he was on the field. Shaq Mason didn't have his best time when he was on the field. Laremy Tunsil was great in pass blocking, but he wasn't as effective in run blocking as you wanted him to be. Titus Howard was very good as far as being a right tackle, but then when he started getting moved around, and even though he didn't play left guard that bad, it was still just, and they weren't moving as a cohesive unit. You know, Juice Scruggs still had some issues that he needed to work out, Jared Patterson. And it's also what we talked about earlier when it comes to competition in the room, like, because you've had like 2 or 3 people who thought that they should have been starting over Kenyon Green. But Kenyon Green's mindset was also like, hey, look, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do the best I can. And maybe the best wasn't good enough. But you had some players who thought that they should have been starting over Kenyon Green. You had some players who thought that they should have been starting over Shaq Mason. Let me say it like this. The week leading up to the divisional round against the Kansas City Chiefs, there was a lot of people who found out that Shaq Mason, who had been out with injury, was coming back to start. And there was a lot of players on that team that did not agree with DeMeco Ryans. There were a lot of players who did not agree with DeMeco Ryans putting Shaq Mason in that starting lineup. Because even though the offensive line unit wasn't looking the best, they still had a lot of issues that they worked out. I mean, that they needed to be worked out. It seemed like they had got some type of rhythm, though. It seemed like they had got some type of rhythm with Blake Fisher at right tackle, Juice Scruggs at right guard, Jared Patterson at center, Titus Howard at left guard, and Laremy Tunsil at left tackle. It looked like they had got some type of rhythm. But then you disrupt that by bringing in Shaq Mason, and you know, DeMeco gave a reason why. You can go back and you can listen to his interview on why he said that he started Shaq Mason. And you know, but just at the time, a lot of those players, it didn't make sense to them, right? It didn't make sense to a lot of the offensive linemen either. It did not. Because they're like, we understand he has the experience. We understand he's been in the league for a very long time. We understand all of that, but you know, it's one of those things where you just like, hold on one second. Y'all got to return this text. Give me 1 second. Okay. And so I agree about him saying that. I agree with the players not being as toxic as the room. If you can understand what I mean by that. The room was toxic. The players weren't as toxic as everybody tried to make them out to be, right? And then, you know, when you're talking about leadership, right? Everybody has a different way, a different form of looking at leadership. How I'm gonna give you a prime example. When I used to teach out in Aldine, I taught at the 5th and 6th grade center. And I'll never forget her name. And if anybody knows her, please tell her that I say hello. We had a teacher that taught 5th grade English named Miss Sailor Hodges, right? Miss Sailor Hodges. And when I'm telling you that I taught in I taught in a school where, hey, man, these 5th and 6th graders, yo, they weren't, hey, there was a lot of behavioral issues that we had to deal with. And I miss those kids. I love them to death because, you know, they helped me to grow as a person. But you had teachers around there, and their teaching style was to, hey, get over here and do this, blah, blah, blah. Stop all that talking, stop, blah, 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 blah. Miss Sailor Hodges, that wasn't her leadership style. I seen Miss Sayla Hodges stand in front of. She had a substitute a day prior. She came back to the class. She came back to the class, and I just so happened to be going in a classroom to take her something. And she's like, Mr. Barefoot, just stand over there for 1 second. I'll be with you in just a second. She's looking at her class, right? And this one class they had cut up the day before. And Miss Sayla Hodges never raised her voice. Never raised. She talked to them just like I'm talking to you all right now. And she said, I am so disappointed in you all. I know that this is the way that you all were taught to act, especially not in this classroom. You treat adults with respect. I treat adults with respect, but I also give you respect as young children in here, but I give you all the respect. Do you not have a voice in this classroom? Do I not? And I mean, her tone was just that, you know, her tone was just, I'm just so, yep, Wilson. Yeah, exactly. Marcus said Wilson in the media. And she was just like, I can't believe that you all, because you all are a direct reflection of me. Boy, them kids was in there boo-hoo crying. My whole time at Wilson, my whole 2 years at Wilson, I never heard Miss Sayla Hodges. I never heard her holler. Not one time. She didn't raise her voice not one time. By far, one of these. She was so good. Other people's classes when Miss Sayla Hodges was around, and she just look at them and they be like, I don't want to disappoint Miss Sayla Hodges. So as I digress, right? As I come back to the point that I was making, I preface that to say that some people's leadership style is different. So some people didn't like the way Laramie led. Some people didn't like the way Titus led. Some people didn't like the way Shaq Mason led, and that's cool. Listen, everybody's opinion is welcome. We don't all have to disagree. I mean, all have to agree. We don't always have to agree. Respect each other's opinions and keep on moving. And so, the whole toxic thing, it's that fine line. Because are you saying that they're toxic as players, or was it toxic as a room? All right, let me move on. He says he's very impressed by CJ Garner Johnson. Oh, I gotta get up out of here. He says he's very impressed by CJ Garner Johnson's energy. He really liked that. He said that linebacker Christian Harris, just has to put in the work and work back in, and he'll bounce back. Said that that he was having a really good offseason coming into last season, and then he got hurt, and so he just needs to bounce back and put that work in, right? And then he said that he was also impressed by Christian Kirk and what he had seen. He had been watching him since Arizona, and unfortunately, he didn't have the career that he wanted to have when he was in Jacksonville, but they knew what type of player that they were getting. And so, hold on, Marcus, what year you went to Wilson? Well, don't tell me that I used to be your teacher. Or don't tell me I used to be your teacher, Marcus. What you know about Miss Seals? Hey, look, let me tell y'all something. For those of you all who don't know, Shirley Seals' brother is Ray Seals. And if you're from Houston, you know who Ray Seals is. But if you're not, and if you're not familiar with Ray Seals coached at Madison High School when Vince Young was there. When they had a squad. Ray Seals is by far, his name doesn't get brought up a lot, but Ray Seals is by far one of the best high school coaches ever in the city of Houston. All right. So I got to get ready to get up out of here, but let me go ahead and go back to some of these comments before I get out of here. Let me see. Okay. Let me see. If we trade Titus next year, are you gonna cry over him 40 days and 40 nights like you did Lazy Larry? Hey, Neptune card 713. Hey, let me ask you a question. I don't know who I'm Hey, Neptune cards. Let me say this. First of all, I don't know who the hell you are. And I know I just put my hand over my heart and I said that I don't want to cuss, but that's okay. God ain't finished with me yet. He's still working on me. I'll repent for these cuss words that I'm about to say. And I'm probably going to get in more trouble by God because I know in my mind that I'm already formulating these cuss words that I'm going to have to repent for. So you know what, Neptune cards, I'm going to probably take a step back and then say this again. I have not been talking or caping or crying for Laramie Tunsil. That is one of the most asinine, dumb statements I've heard since Laramie got traded. If anything, I have been saying, I understand, right? I said, I understand why they traded him. And if you, Neptune Card 713, think that Laramie Tunsil was not a good left tackle, then are you really watching football? This ain't 2K, my guy. Laramie is by far one of the best left tackles in the game. He has issues at run blocking, and he costs too much. That's exactly what I've been saying. How in the hell is that caping? I'm listening. How is that caping? How is that crying? It's well documented. Go back and look at these shows that I talked about Laramie on. This show, Sports Talk with Big Sarge, the Locked On Texans podcast. There are receipts out there, my guy, that I've said the exact same thing. So what are you talking about? I don't understand. It makes no sense to me. There's a lot of stuff that has not made sense to me today. And like I said, I'm about to get ready to get up off here because I got to go over to Dyken Park where the Houston Astros are about to take on the San Francisco Giants. There's a lot of things that I have not understood today. Stress that minutely. But this is a dumb statement. Very dumb. And I said it. And if you don't like it, hey, listen, let me tell you something, Neptune cards. Let me tell you, like I have to tell the other people a lot. I don't get paid by the click. I don't get paid by the like. I don't get paid by the retweets or the reposts or nothing like that. I also don't make hot takes just to make hot takes to go on social media. I'm an adult. I believe in everything I say. Right or wrong, I stand 10 toes down on it. So when I say something, it ain't for clickbait. When I say something, it ain't to move the needle. Either you like it or you don't. Either you follow me or you don't. You're on my show. I'm not on yours. So with that being said, hell yeah, I'm going to address this. I'm in a toxic relationship with the Texans, and it always ends in the second round. What you say? You don't have a toxic boss, man? H-Town Sports. Hey, I like that. Sports with a Z at the end. I like that. I would say it was a power struggle with the offensive line coaches. Definitely. The offensive lineman didn't respect the coaching, trying to be professional while not believing in the system. Mm-hmm. What's up, Sideline Sarah? Did you see that I gave you a shout out? I gave you a shout out. Because those insiders hadn't gotten that information from Bobby Slowick like a bitter ex. James Palmer said the same words, toxic, and I peeped. He called him by his nickname, Slow. James Palmer is a very interesting guy. He's interesting. He's very interesting. I don't have anything bad to say about him. He's just very interesting. And he will try to go above and beyond. Him and there's another guy that I won't mention his name, but he tried to go above and beyond. I remember, I'm not going to say the player's name, but I was talking to the player one-on-one, right? And this player that I was talking to, I talk to him every week, one-on-one. One-on-one. He always makes time for me. Most of the time, it's on a Friday. So on a Friday, he'll make time for me. I'll sit next to him at his locker, ask him a couple of questions about, the upcoming games and things like that. So this one time, he was standing up and he was dressed. He was just getting himself together. And he's like, come on, Sarge, I got time for you. I'm not going to say the other guy's name. but it was funny because he's talking to me, right? And so I'm at the locker, and the player standing here, so I'm like this, right? And then the guy comes on the other side and tries to stand there and listen. So at first, the player doesn't know because the player's turned this way talking to me. And this guy has come and made his way like right on this side. And so the player's talking to me, and I'm looking, and the player's still talking to me, and I keep looking, and the player's like, he ain't finished answering the question. He's like, "Hey man, can you give me a second? Once I finish talking with Sarge, I'll talk to you. I'll answer one or two questions for you, but I'm talking to Sarge right now. So can you give us some room? Give me a second, bro. I got you." I just laugh because that guy tried to do that on more than one occasion with more than one play. And I was like, bro, you're not here enough in order for you to get these type of one-on-ones. I digress. What else we got here? They also have to get the plays out quick so CJ can make his audibles. They need exactly H-Town Sports. That's exactly what I've been saying. That's exactly what I've been saying too. Hit the Ricky Bobby. Oh, what you know about that? Sorry, they could have put a lawn chair right there in the division around it. Probably would have given more resistance. Oh, pose for the frame. It's your old teacher. Okay. So will DeMeco create a toxic environment in the defensive back room between Ward and Petrie? No, Petrie's the starter. What are you talking about here? It's the backup. What you got to say, Mike? When I taught drinking classes, I made sure I was drinking more than anyone. It's all. Oh my god. Uh exactly. Uh Travis Johnson. Travis Johnson should be coaching the Roughnecks. Woo. Yeah. Squad. Let me see. Uh Tell what? Landry Stream telling what? Saying what? Ah man. Who made a sandwich in front of me? What are y'all talking about? Oh man. Oh man. Uh, I can see TJ on the sideline with a sick. All right, y'all. I gotta get up out of here. But before I do, right? So, okay. For this time, y'all forgive me. I won't be looking at the comments. I won't. And I'm about to talk about something that went down today on social media. So if you want to go ahead and exit and leave the room, thank you for tuning in to the Texans Happy Hour. Make sure you subscribe to Big Sarge Sports. Make sure you subscribe, excuse me, to my YouTube channel at Big Sarge Media. Follow me on the Tick and the Talk at Big Sarge Media. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at Big Sarge Sports with the Z at the end. Because we do everything for the gram. And make sure you follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Big Sarge Sports with the Z at the end. Like I said, I am done talking about what DeMeco Ryans did. I have to say something about something that transpired today. This is going to be the first time, the last time, and the only time that I talk about this, right? So I'm turning the comments off. I mean, no. I didn't turn the comments off. I just can't see the comments, right? I'm making a full screen about myself. All right. So last season, right? Last season before like right towards the end of the season, Texans rookie offensive lineman Ladarius Henderson, who had not been on the field the entire year because he was out due to injury. I think he got hurt during training camp, and so they just put him on injury reserve for the entire season. So I seen him on multiple occasions, but before the season was over, I got a chance to speak with Ladarius Henderson. And I said to Ladarius, excuse me, for a guy who started to play football late, because a lot of people don't know Ladarius Henderson's story. Ladarius Henderson actually didn't start playing football until late in his high school career. I think that it was like 10th grade, 10th, 11th grade, when a coach that was somebody was there to look at somebody else, and they seen him walking down the hallway, and he went from not playing football to being one of the best at his high school. He started out at Arizona State, protecting Jaden Daniels. And then he transferred from Arizona State and went to Michigan with not even having a position. They told him, hey, look, we already got great offensive linemen here. So if you want to come here and compete, you can. But there is no guarantee that you will be playing here. We can't guarantee you how much playing time you'll get. And the only thing that he did was play in the national championship game, protecting JJ McCarthy, who ironically was also out for the entire year for the Minnesota Vikings. And so I got a chance to talk to Ladarius, and I asked him about his mindset of not playing football. You achieved your dream of getting to the NFL, and now you're not playing. How did that take a toll on you? And for those of you all, once again, who's not really familiar with Ladarius Henderson, he has very strong faith. Like Ladarius Henderson, when he was at Arizona State, was leading Bible studies. And I think he may have done it when he got to Michigan as well. But I know for sure at Arizona State, he was like leading Bible studies. So he's very, 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 very rooted in his faith. And so when him and I were talking, we started off talking because him and his wife do these, they got these funny little skits that they do on IG. That's really just basic. And what I mean by basic, like there isn't any extravagant, film production that goes into it. He doesn't have to take time away from football to do this. This just may be like they may be in the kitchen talking about cooking, and he didn't take out the trash or something like that, right? So we started out the conversation like that. And then, like I said, I asked him about not playing. And then he said that he had to lean a lot on his faith. He had to lean a lot on his family, especially his wife, because it was hard for him for the first time in his career not to be able to be out on the field and compete, especially after, playing as much. I'm sorry, doing as much to get to the NFL. And so him and I, finished out our conversation, whatever the case may be. So, right? So fast forward to, I want to say last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. I'm thinking it was more of last week on the Locked On Texans podcast when John and I was talking. We was talking about the offensive line, and I think that at the end I was like, "Hey, man, and you can't forget about the." And I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna find the clip. John probably knows where it is better than I do, but there's a part where I say you also got to remember that they have a secret weapon, not a secret weapon, but they also have a guy that's coming back that's going to be like a rookie and be fresh for them in Ladarius Henderson. And I said that they can also add him to the offensive line. And they can also, get him coming back because Ladarius Henderson he's a really big guy. He was like 6'7". I don't know his actual measurement. I just know Ladarius Henderson is a really big guy. And so I said that on the show, right? Because I I said that, and then I started to think a little bit later on, and I retweeted this today. Uh Ladarius has all Ladarius started at left. I'm sorry, started at tackle and at guard when he was at Arizona State. And so he played, they got a 29 games, if I'm not mistaken. He played a certain, I forgot exactly how many games. It's on my Twitter feed. He played a certain amount of games at left tackle, a tackle, excuse me, and a certain amount of games at guard. And so when I thought about that, I started to think, hey man, look, Ladarius Henderson, like I said on the show, hey, that's a guy that's going to that's a guy that's going to be able to come back and That's a guy that's going to be able to come back and get some things done. Y'all give me a second. What I said was, hold on, give me a second. Um, where is it at? Sorry. Oh, so I said this. I've been saying this before the end of the season. I'm truly interested in seeing what Ladarius Henderson will bring to the Texans on the field this season. I believe he has tremendous upside, which is something I basically said on the Locked On Texans podcast as well. And then let me get y'all the here it is. Yes, I was right. So tweet from April 29th, 2024. I said, although he made first team all Big Ten at the tackle position, Houston Texans rookie Ladarius Henderson can also slide over to the guard position before transferring uh, over to guard. Before transferring to Michigan from Arizona State, he started 29 games for the Sun Devils, 19 at left guard and 10 at left tackle. And so that's why I was like, he can play. He definitely can play um, both positions, right? I said, that's somebody that could play both positions. And so that seemed to spark an outrage. And at first I thought it was a April Fool's joke, right? At first I thought that I was being punked because it's April 1st. And then I realized that it was real. There was a lot of people who accused me of stealing content, said that and listen, for the record, right hand, where's my no, it's over here. This tattoo I got right here, it's an old tattoo. I got this from Dagos. If you know what Dagos is, this is it. So when I go like this is for my brother who passed away when he was 17. I tap this. I want you to know that I'm 100. Like I'm always 100, but when I do this, I'm really 100 because this is for my brother Anthony. I didn't listen to that Spaces at all. I knew that there was a Spaces because I started to get text messages and DMs saying, "Hey man, they're over there talking about you." And I said, "Who's over there talking about me?" And then I found out who it was, and I found out some of the things that was being said. And it was some of it was salacious, some of it was malicious, some of it was done with malicious intent. Somebody said that I little broed AD over Ladarius Henderson take. Ladarius Henderson. Because AD and I said the exact same thing, I've been on record by saying, hey man, the way that the algorithm is set up sometimes, I tell people all this all the time. And I said, hey man, if you really want me to see something, or if you really want me to see what you're saying, you have to tag me in it. Because if you don't tag me in it, I probably won't see it because of the way that the algorithm is set up now, especially on X, right? I had no clue AD talked about Ladarius Henderson. I only talked about Ladarius Henderson because I had talked about him on on the on the podcast, on the Locked On Texas podcast. But the way that I was told that my name had been drugged through the mud, and how I was this and how I was that and how I wasn't this, how I wasn't that, and blase this and blase that. And I'm saying to myself, hey man, that's cool. Everybody, everybody has an opinion, right? I'm not for everybody. And I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. But don't accuse me of stealing content. Because talking about Ladarius Henderson, a player who didn't play all last season, a player who can play at both positions on the line, at the tackle and the guard position, a player who I have personally talked to a player who I personally have his phone number, a person that I've communicated with, a person that I know that a lot of these offensive linemen that was with the Texans had a lot of respect for Ladarius Henderson, a player who a lot of those players on the offensive side of the ball said they couldn't wait to see him come back. You think that I would go on somebody's page and steal a Ladarius Henderson take? And let me tell you something. If I'm gonna take something from AD, it damn sure ain't gonna be nothing about Ladarius Henderson. I know everything that I need to know about Ladarius Henderson because nothing has really changed except his health. But everything else I know about is documented. I wrote an article about it. I shared that as well. So if I'm gonna steal anything from AD, if I was to steal anything from AD, I would go on his page and steal mock draft stuff. Because I really am not into mock drafts. Mock drafts is like trying to predict the weather. So I would go on and look and see, hey man, who does AD have projected to go here, this, that, and the other? Also, for some of you all who I don't know, I know AD personally. I know AD personally. For some of y'all who I don't know, I don't care what you had to say. That don't bother me. I don't know you. I don't know you. You're ones and zeros and an avatar to me, whatever they call your little picture online. That does not bother me, not one bit. Either you support my content or you don't. It does not make me one. It doesn't bother me at all. What bothers me is that you accuse me of stealing. And what bothers me is you accuse me of stealing from somebody I call my friend, somebody that I talk to away from social media. You accuse me of stealing a Ladarius Henderson take from somebody that I respect. Hell, I don't even take content from people I don't respect. You know why? Because I can create my own content. And you know what makes me be able to create my own content? Because I have a creative mind that I've been blessed with from God. That's the first thing. You know what else helps me with my content? I'm actually in the rooms. I'm in the locker rooms. I'm in the media rooms when these press conferences go down. I'm at the practices. I'm at the games, home and away. And that's with the Texans. That's with the Rockets. And that's with the Astros. You know where I'm going to be next week? I will be in Los Angeles as the Houston Rockets will take on the Los Angeles Clippers and the Los Angeles Lakers. They'll come back here. They'll finish their season out against Denver. And then guess what? Denver is their last home game. Then they start the playoffs. I'm going to be on the road then. So I don't need to steal content. I have, you know how many, listen, let me tell y'all something. There's so many interviews and sound bites and things inside of this right here. There's so much content from last season, 2 seasons ago that I haven't even put out yet. You know what I plan on resharing? My exclusive interview with Derek Stingley. You know what I plan on resharing? My exclusive interview with defensive line coach Rod Wright. My exclusive interview with head coach DeMeco Ryans. My exclusive interviews, 2 of them, with the McNairs. Doug Vosick, who is he is the, I don't know if he's the vice president, but he's over marketing, communications, and ticket sales. I got exclusive interviews with CJ Stroud, Nico Collins. Like, and I'm saying that, and you could take it as a flex. I don't care. I am. Because to accuse me of stealing accuse me of stealing content when I create content, these shows don't get created by themselves. And I do 1, 2, 3, sometimes 3, 4 times, 4 of these a day. But to accuse me of stealing it from a person that I consider a friend, right? A person that I consider a friend, I would never take nothing from nobody. That's the first thing. I don't need it. I don't. I don't. I don't need to steal from you. I think that where I'm at in life, where me and my wife are in life, I think I'm doing pretty damn good. So stealing, that's the thing that got to me. That's the thing that bothered me. You accuse me of stealing. All that other stuff that y'all say about me or whatever the case may be or whatever. Like I said, I didn't listen to the spaces. And I haven't been in these spaces, and I honestly and truly don't, you don't go where you're not wanted. So no, I'm good. I'm good. I got way more other things than to worry about than this type of thing. That's why this is the first time and the last time I'm addressing it, because it ain't like the ones who be saying what they saying support my content anyway. I honestly and truly don't care. I honestly and truly don't care, because there's a lot of musical artists out there that's not for me, but they are for somebody. And for whatever audience that they're catered themselves to, then that's who they cater themselves to. So whoever caters to my style of content, whoever caters to my style of content, I love you. I appreciate you. Hand over heart. If you don't, I'm fine with that too. We don't know each other personally. We don't know each other personally. The only thing we've ever done is heard each other's voices. So I'm cool with that. Last thing I'm gonna say about this, and then I'm gonna move on. The last thing that I'm gonna say about this, I was getting a lot of people was asking me, a lot of people were sending me things and saying, Sarge, how you gonna respond to that? Sarge, I know you're gonna say something. Sarge, I know you're gonna respond to it. I know you're gonna say something. Nah, I'm good. And the reason why I'm good is the people who watch my pages, they don't watch y'all social media pages. The people who look and see what I'm posting, they don't look and see what you're posting. The people who look and see how I respond to things like this, people going at me, trolling at me, they don't look at your pages. They don't know nothing about you. They don't. You know who they know? Sarge. So if Sarge crashes out and Sarge gets to going too hard, then Sarge gonna get a text message, or Sarge gonna get a text message saying call me, or Sarge is gonna get a phone call. Hey, what's going on? You good? You all right? You know why? Because I have credentials. I'm credential, seasoned credential. You know what that means? That means that my credential is plastic, and I ain't got to get a new one every game. With the Texans, my credential is plastic as I walk through the doors. On the road, they're paper. Rockets, it's plastic. Astros, plastic. I got this shit out the mud. I got this shit out of the mud. Feet planted in the mud. Work my way up from nobody knowing who I am, to owners of teams knowing who I am, to communications people knowing who I am, to players, they see me out, recognize Sarge. What's up? I bet you they don't even really know my full name, but they know Sarge, because I worked hard for that. I got it out the mud. I ain't finna let you drag me back into the mud. I got it out of the mud. Got it out of the mud, got out of the mud. You think I'm finna let you drag me back into it? I got way more to lose than y'all who come at me. That don't bother me. Don't bother me not at all. But I had to address this because there are some people who needed to hear from me. And so for those of you all who needed to hear from me, here you go. I'm doing it. But I'm doing it in a respectful way because I don't want to leave off of this spaces and excuse me, leave off of this show and be at Dyken Park and getting a whole bunch of text messages and phone calls saying, call me, or hey, what's going on? What are you going through? Can't crash out like that. Too many people watch what I do. One of the biggest flexes that I have is, hey man, who's your favorite player? I'll tell them you said hello. I can't crash out. Too many people watch me. And I can't crash out because there's a lot of things that listen, let me tell y'all something. Right here, I'm talking about right here. Literally right here. There are 2 boxes, right? 2. You know what? Y'all hold on for a second. Let me show you why I don't crash out. Because if I crash out, it ain't gonna be good. It ain't gonna be good for nobody. You see these 2 blue boxes, right? Two blue boxes, right? With me right over there every time I do a show. Every time I do a show. And this is why I don't crash out. You see this? This is an urn with my late wife's ashes in it. Right? Passed away September 2017. Right? So this urn is here. Do you know what's next to her? Hold on, give me a second. This is an urn with my mother's ashes in them. Passed away 15 months after my late wife passed away. So I have 2 urns, right? 2 urns right here that are right here beside me. If I crash out, everything that I've ever thought about, missed, asked God why it wasn't fair. If I crash out right here, I ain't coming back from go. If I crash out, I'm crashing all the way out. You see right here? This is the cause of a lot of internal pain. This right here is the cause of a lot of internal trauma. This right here is the cause of a lot of major depression. This one right here, the late wife, passed away in my arms. I watched her take her last breath. This one right here, my mama, last word she told me, hey son, I'm gonna call you back tomorrow. She passed away the next day. On my brother's birthday, the tattoo I just showed you, the one that he died when he was 17 years old, birthday December 14th, passed away December 14th. Some of this I've already told y'all about. This is why I don't crash out. Now, with that being said, this is the reason why a lot of y'all don't have to deal with me. Like sometimes the way you act and it dictates. I ain't a tough guy. I don't even play one on television. but just leave me alone. How about that? Just leave me alone. I ain't done nothing to you. You ain't done nothing to you. I ain't done nothing to you. I don't know y'all personally. I don't. But the great thing about social media, right? And like I said, this is the first time and the last time I'm addressing this, especially on Twitter. You can go in and remove people who follow you as a friend. Like you don't even have to block them. You could just remove them as a friend. So that's what I've also done. I'm not finna allow you all to cause me that type of trauma. So as I digress, AD, I did not steal your Ladarius Henderson take. I would think that, and I'm not saying you said anything. I don't know what was said from you. I don't know. But I would think that you would know that I would have a little bit more respect for you than to go and steal one of your takes. If anything, I would have called you or text you and said, hey man, you want to come on the show and talk about it a little bit more? Ooh, got that out the way. God, I feel so much better. All right, y'all, I gotta go because we got to get over to the game. They giving away autism. Chrissy, she can't hear me. I think they're giving away. She getting the autism jacket tonight. Yeah. Thank y'all for tuning in to the Texans Happy Hour. Make sure you follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter. Big Sarge. I'm out.
Hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work.